Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to our 5th anniversary reunion of License to Ill. It's crazy that it's been so long. Just a few quick intros. I'm Adam. I'm one of the co-creators of the show, and I also played MCA in the show. And we have Simon Mader, who is another co-creator, and he also played Mike D. We have Tope Mikun, another co-creator who was also the DJ and played pretty much everyone else in the show apart from the Beastie Boys. We have Jesse Anand, who was one of the producers of the show. We have Ina, who, what was your official title, Ina, in the show?
I think stage manager. I think that's the official one.
But you did a lot more than that.
Yeah,
of course.
Did a lot. Like master of sound and everything.
Exactly.
Everything background there.
And we have, Ellie's here, 1 second. There we go. Let me just add her to the list. 1 second. I just want hey.
Hello.
Hello.
Wow.
We also have Amber Massey Blomfield, who was at the time of doing the show executive director of Camden People's Theatre, and was one of the people that very kindly commissioned our ridiculous show, and was one of the key people to make it happen. And we also have Ellie Wilding, who was the costume designer on the show. So welcome, everybody. How are we all?
Good.
Good.
Nice.
So good to be here.
Yeah, it's very
nice
good.
to see you all.
Thank you, everyone who's tuned in, all the fans of the show. It's really lovely to see you all. So I guess the first thing I would say, the question I would put out there is how did you get involved with License to Ill? To everyone, whoever wants to go first.
Well, we could start by that conversation you and I had and go from there.
Yeah, do you want to start that? Do you want to start us off on that then?
So Adam and I met at the Edinburgh Fringe, and we then worked together in London. Being we were flyers. We handed out flyers for Billy Elliot, I think it was.
It was a lot of shows. It was a lot.
Jersey Boys, Billy Elliot. And so one day we realized that we're both huge hip hop fans, and we were swapping bands and saying, have you heard these guys? Have you heard these guys? I think I mentioned the Beastie Boys and you hadn't heard much of their stuff. So then you went away and I think you listened to every single album in 2 days.
So I went home. Simon said to me, because we really wanted to do a show about hip hop. We wanted to make a show together. And Simon was like, what about the Beastie Boys? And I was like, yeah, the Beastie Boys are cool. But I hadn't really heard all of their work, or kind of was as familiar as Simon was. So I just went home and listened to all their albums over a few days. And then I came back and was like, these guys are perfect for a theatrical show. Their energy is so ridiculous and fun, but they're also pioneers of hip hop, and then it was just, we were kind of all in from there. And I think maybe that weekend we called up the Beastie Boys manager and said, hey, we'd love to make a show about you guys, and they were like, okay. That's interesting. We never heard that one before. That's and then we kind of started this sort of, I guess, unofficial relationship with the Beastie Boys management team and them, and we kind of over the years sent them the footage of stuff. And I think the next person to get involved was Tope. Tope, do you have any memories of how you were approached for this show?
I guess the backstory is Adam and I graduated from the same sort of drama school, so we had that connection. After graduating, I was pretty much still dancing in the underground dance scene, in London, and DJing for competitions and battles. And I remember he called me at one point and was like, man, there's this project that I think I would like to get you involved in, but I can't say too much now. And then we fast forward, and they came to one of the nights that I was DJing for at King's College University. And him and Simon was like, yeah, we're just gonna sit down and listen to some weird unofficial audition. They stayed for like 10 minutes and were like, yeah, no, we're gonna have you on board. And then from then after that, they just called me and was like, yeah, we know you can act. We just want to see what you can do in terms of the DJing and like your music, and we think you're perfect for it. And from there, it's just like, it's been all downhill. You know, I got involved in the first show at Camden and never looked back.
Yeah, I think then it was probably Amber. What are your experiences or memories of the first time you heard that this might be a thing?
I think didn't you do a work in progress at Camden People's Theatre? And
That's right.
Before I started working there, or it was early days and I didn't actually see it that night, but everyone who saw it absolutely loved it. And then there was this decision about taking it on for a 3-week run for the Christmas show, which we sort of felt, you know, would this be okay? Would we have the rights for all the songs and all the rest of it? How would we get away with that? And I think we were able to do it because we were a really small theatre, and we sort of took legal advice, and because we wouldn't be sort of making loads of money from it, that we wouldn't have any legal issues with it. And so, but it, you know, I was quite new in my job and it felt like quite a risky thing to do, but the show was just so fantastic. We were like, well, we just have to make this happen and go on the journey with it. So, and I just remember when we put the press release out about it, do you remember? It went absolutely mental.
Yeah, it was crazy.
There's hundreds and hundreds of like magazines and radio stations, and there was that conversation, that radio program we listened to in America where there were two guys, and this one guy was like kicking off about it. He was like, who are these people? They're making all this money off the Beastie Boys brand. And then like during the radio conversation, one of them like Googled the theatre and was it's a like 60-seater small fringe theatre. I don't think they're making a fortune out of this. But yeah, so that was it, and we just went with it, and it was just like so popular from day one, and the press coverage was absolutely amazing and great to be a part of.
It showed that it's kind of that reaction. Oh, by the way, everyone who's in the audience from the public, if you have any questions, just let us know in the chat box, and we can highlight you later on. Yeah, I think, you know, that reaction from people kind of made us realize how you know, protective people are of that band, you know, and how much love there is for that group. And it was you know, it was really, for one thing, it was like really cool because we were, you know, this show that we had the idea of making suddenly was in like MTV and you know, I don't know, all sorts of things, and on weird American radio where they slagged us off and stuff. But
and it was all the music publications as well that like came to see it and review it, which was really cool, that it wasn't like the usual theatre reviewers, but you were like connecting with the music fans. And it was high risk in that way, because I just thought, you know, oh well, you know, it's a fun theatre show, but is it gonna stack up in terms of like the real music aficionados? And they all absolutely loved it. You got amazing reviews, and that was really cool.
That was the one thing that throughout the whole process of doing the shows that I noticed a lot of was the difference between the preconceived ideas of what the show would be and what happened when people saw it. Like, we were always so careful to try and make it with as much love and respect as possible. And that involved a lot of work. And I think the reason people's opinions changed is because when they came to see it, they saw that work and they saw the love and the respect, and they saw how much we were charging for tickets, and they were like, okay, now these guys, they're not millionaires, they're not making any, no one's making any money, but there is still a huge amount of passion. Yeah, I think it might have been maybe Ina next.
I feel like Ina and Ellie were
kind
of the next in there. I feel like Ellie was. Ina, were you involved in the work in progress one that we did ages ago? Oh, are you muted? Hold on.
Hi.
There we go.
Yeah, so I was definitely with it at Camden's People's Theatre. I'm not sure if I was there for the very, very first one, but I probably was, right? I can't remember now. But I got involved because I know Simon from before. We go way back. And then I'd met Adam before as well. But yeah, and then just got involved there. And then just stayed on it with it forever. Which is, yeah, it's such a fun show to work on. And like, obviously, you guys are great to work with, but it's also like such a fun, because I was operating both light and sound. And it's just, yeah, it's just a really fun show to do. And like, it's so fun to watch every night. And also like, just the operation of the light and sound is just so much fun because so much is happening. And yeah, it's just great. Yeah. It's good.
And Ellie.
Yeah, I think I've done some other shows with Simon and Ina, which have been great. And then this is sort of like the next one that was happening on the list to do costume and props and just general sort of creative bits for. And yeah, I think like Ina said, it was just absolute nonsense. I think I provided a lot of Adidas tracksuits and a lot of chat in the rehearsals. I was mainly a part of the work in progress. It was very much like pulling things together completely last minute, or me racking my brain to think, well, where could I find a retro phone? And then I realized I had like one at home, and it was just that those were such great times. But like, I just wouldn't look back and consider that as a sort of job. It was just absolute fun. And I think it's totally right that what you're saying, Simon, about like the respect to the band and through like the energy and care that went into it. And like when people go and see it and sort of have a completely different outlook on the show once they've seen it, I mean, that just came across in like every rehearsal, every time we turned up to the Camden People's Theatre, it changed every day, and it was all just like such a great collaboration. And you did listen to like stupid ideas I had that was always really appreciated.
I still can't believe you found a VW sign.
Yeah.
I've got it still. It's under my bed, and I should have got it.
I think the thing for me was when you recreated the Sabotage sort of like names and titles with the exact same font, and it was just so perfect. And unfortunately, we had like a boiler leak at my old flat, so those got like destroyed. It was really sad. So I don't have those Sabotage.
Oh, I'm sure I could do it again.
Yeah, but,
my skills are like through the roof.
Exactly, you could do far many more now. And then I guess last to come to the license to ill fold was Jesse, who was part of the last run we did at Southwark Playhouse, and was on the producing team. So how did you must have seen it at Camden People's Theatre maybe the year before?
I actually didn't even see it at CPT.
Okay.
I remember, I think Simon and Adam, you guys came to us after that run had just finished because it had been such a success, and I managed to miss it. So I just saw a video of it. And it was like quite a rough video of the show really, but I immediately got the kind of energy and the audience vibe too from it. And so I remember we were just like, oh, this surely needs to go further, needs to go somewhere else. But Hannah and I, who are on that producing team, neither of us was a big hip hop fan. Neither of us really knew that much about the Beastie Boys. We are like the squarest pop fans ever, really. And so it was quite a learning experience, but a really fun one, like listening to it all and getting to know the back catalogue. And I think the first thing I did was watch after I'd seen the footage of the show was watch all the Beasties music videos, and they are just so kind of theatrical in themselves, I think, so creative, and so much kind of setup has gone into them that kind of could see how it was going to work on stage.
It's I have to mention one thing, and to this date in my career, of all the theatres and all of the shows I've done, it's still the memory that gives me some of the most horrible shame feeling, which is that we were so excited about this show, Amber, we forgot to tell you, didn't we? We forgot. Oh God, I cannot get over it. We forgot to tell Amber and Camden People's Theatre that we were doing it somewhere else.
That was...
Do you remember?
Why did you bring that up?
I have to. This is therapy. I finally confront this memory. And Amber was so nice. She was just like, guys, are you doing the show again? And we were like, oh, but yeah, no, it was all good. And
we were just delighted for your success.
Thank you. I can sleep easy.
It all worked out in the end. I'm just gonna. We're missing one of the key members of the cast, and that's Dan Smith, who played Ad Rock, but he's left us a special message for today, so I'm just gonna play that for you now.
Hey guys, what's up? I'm really sorry I can't be there with you guys. By the time you watch this, I will be driving around in an ambulance in the West Midlands, trying to do my best to help people out. That's what I do now for a living, which is pretty cool. And also, as you can probably hear, I have a baby. Wow! Check it out. Whoa! Yeah, so that's Kip. Kip is a month old now, which is pretty crazy. So yeah, got my hands full these days. Doing the show was an absolute dream. It was a pleasure. Whoa, yeah. And it was wicked in every way, and it will forever be a fond memory, which I frequently tell people about, and it's always a talking point. And yeah, I just want to say thank you to everyone that came along and enjoyed the show as much as we did. And I am going to have to go because Kip has woken up. Much love to you all, guys. Hope you enjoy the evening, and and loads of love. Yeah. Keep it beastie.
So we're getting quite a lot of questions in, so I think I'm just gonna start with those so we can cover all of them. We got one here from Chris Lancaster. He says, the show was such a great experience and filled the gap. Hip hop and theatre is a great mix. Why do you think we haven't seen more hip hop theatre shows off the back of your success? And if no one else will make one, will you make another?
Well, I don't want to say we inspired Hamilton.
Yeah.
But that was happening at the same time.
That was happening at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, yeah, that's
anyway.
Well, you saw License to Ill, but it's the same thing. Yeah, that's a really good question, isn't it? Like, I don't know why there's not more of it. I think it's because people who go into theatre at an early age don't then also go into hip hop, because that's, it's a discipline in itself. Like there's paths there, and so when we decided to make a hip hop musical, we looked at each other. We had to go, we're gonna have to learn how to rap. Like that's a whole thing. It takes a long time. So when you cast actors, a lot of actors can rap, but you're looking for a whole other different ball game. I think. I don't know. That's my take anyway.
My whole thoughts on it, because there is hip hop theatre. I'm part of like the dance scene, so there's a lot of dance, hip hop theatre, storytelling and stuff. But I feel like, and anyone can disagree with me, I feel like what we were doing was, people were trying to put in boxes, but it was just so different, because there was a lot of people who weren't theatre goers, who were like people who go to music gigs and felt very much like it was a gig with a story. And I remember even watching reading one of the reviews we had. It was like the nearest comparison they had for us was something like Jersey Boys. So it was very hard to pinpoint what we were doing, because whilst we're putting a lot of love and care into it, and yes, we come from theatrical backgrounds, almost the show wasn't, you know, it wasn't hard. It was hard to place it in. It's mostly this category because some people thought it was a musical, but at the same time, it doesn't have some of the common tropes that you have in a musical. You know, it has theatre. It's got so many elements, but it's also very much its own thing. So, off of the back of that, you know, I don't know how do you make something that's along those lines that fits within a particular category that you can market to people and be like, yeah, no, this is what it is. Because I felt like it was so many things, and at the same time, it was his own thing.
Are there other hip hop artists that you think should have musicals made about them? And did you think about doing any others?
Me and Adam had a chat, because I also make music as well. And I'd thought about doing Jay Dilla because he's been a huge influence to a load of the production circuit, which then even goes on a further layer to huge names in hip hop now. But his story is just so deep, and that project was just put on hold because I wanted to understand production more, and I'm still doing that. So that has been something that we had talked about between me and him, and we'll see where that goes in the future.
I've just seen a question pop up in the chat that I was literally about to say. Like, Adam and I talked once about doing an original hip hop musical about
we did
about the origins of hip hop. So we probably wouldn't even been in that, but it would have been set in New York in the 70s. And then, so basically the first bit of License to Ill, which is like a really quick introduction into what happened in New York to allow hip hop to evolve, it would have been a whole 90-minute, 2.5 hour show about those times and how hip hop became what it is. That I think I would still be interested in doing.
Yeah, definitely. And they kind of did that with that. They tried to do that with that show, The Get Down, that
yes,
Netflix show. But it was obviously it was a series, so they have to kind of make it a bit more narrative focused and not so focused on the hip hop thing. But it is really fascinating. I mean, it's one of those things where there are some really good documentaries about hip hop stuff now. You know, like there was that show, The Defiant Ones, about Dre. There's Hip Hop Evolution, which is like in its 4th series now. And obviously there's Beastie Boys Story, which is an amazing documentary about the Beastie Boys and that they've made themselves. And there's a lot of good stuff out there. So I think someone like Jay Dilla, who people, if they're hip hop people, they know who Jay Dilla is, but not loads of people mainstream wise are like, yeah, Jay Dilla, because he's kind of like under that layer of popular knowledge, but someone like him, someone like MF Doom, you could make a great show about,
Can you imagine trying to find someone who could rap like MF Doom?
Exactly. Yeah. Got another question here from Josh Roberts. He says, I would like to know if you guys had any goof moments on stage or made any notable mistakes in the middle of a performance.
Do you remember?
Probably every night, but we probably blank them out. Yeah.
Ellie, do you remember any?
Oh, Ellie's gone.
I feel like on some of the last shows, I think it was in the ice cream menu, I just kept photoshopping stupid pictures in, so that when Dan has to and like wrap off the ice cream menu, he'd have to just like save face, and obviously he's a great actor, so it went fine, but it was my like guilty pleasure. I'm like leaving little like set bombs.
Yeah, I've actually got a question. I don't have many goof memories, but one of my questions to all of you would be, what's your favorite License to Ill memory from the 3 years we did the show for?
That's hard.
Maybe for me, it might be in CPT when we first set up the microphones and we first did a rehearsal, and we could hear, because we were so worried about levels, we were worried about tech, we bought all of this stuff to make it work, and I was so worried, and then we did a rehearsal, and I remember just thinking, this works. Oh yes, thank you so much, it works. And not only that, but I was so excited by the sound was really loud. And I loved that. And I knew that the people watching in the audience would get that feeling just of the you know, I was so happy that it worked. That was a favorite memory of mine. And then just from there, it was just making it as silly as we could.
Yeah. Okay, so we got another question here from John Moss. How have you seen the content? How have you seen the content of the show validated, or any bits you wish you had included since the launch of the Beastie Boys book?
There was already so much we couldn't include, like we even that we'd made and that we'd rehearsed, and then when it came to showtime, we'd do the dress rehearsal, and we were like, guys, we can't do a 2-hour show. That's insane.
Yeah,
like we have to cut some bits, and it was so hard. And there
Oh,
was
you
one
should. Yeah, sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to quickly say an anecdote where we had a director, Tid, who unfortunately couldn't be here, but he was really great, especially in those last couple of weeks before we went on stage. And he said, you know this scene where you meet Rick on the rooftop? Could you put that scene inside the break of this track? So before, we were just sort of dancing around being silly idiots during the break of, I think it was
it was New Style.
New Style.
New Style.
And so there was this long bit, and he just went, what if we cut that and put an entire scene in? And we were like, and then he went, we'll do it. And then we did it, and it worked. And I was like, yeah, that saves time. It really works.
Yeah.
It sets up two different worlds where they have the New Style, and then they meet the producer, and then they finish the New Style, and it just a little story. And he saw that, and he was just like, yeah, that's what we're doing now.
I mean, you know, like if the public could see the 3-hour like Apocalypse Now Redux version of the show that we presented to Amber and Brian and Tid before we put it on at Camden People's Theatre. I mean, I'm pretty sure at one point I was Steven Tyler with a wig on, and we were like Scousers when the Beastie Boys went to Liverpool. There was just so much stuff. There was a whole section of sabotage that we had to cut because it just didn't work for the show, unfortunately. And it's obviously a very iconic Beastie Boys thing, but it just didn't work narratively. I think in terms of validated, you know, we've had the pleasure of being able to show, you know, some of the people who knew the Beastie Boys. Me and Simon got to meet Mario C, who was their engineer for, you know, a lot of their albums. And we sent him the show, and he was just like, this is dope. This is so cool. And that, you know, just having people who actually were there, you know, sort of kind of say like, yeah, this is kind of what it was like, was, you know, it meant to us that we'd done our homework, and you know, the research was good. And yeah, what have we got next? How many times have you performed the show in total? From Peter Royal. I always want to pronounce his name as Peter Royale, like Grand Royale, whenever I see it. Yeah, so I think Peter Royale says, how many times have we performed the show? What do you think?
We did we did 4 weeks at CPT.
A liquid extension, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So we did and 4 at Southwark, right?
Yeah.
So,
and then the tours as well.
And the tours.
Manchester, Bristol.
Latitude.
That's it. Oh yeah, God.
Latitude is, I don't know, maybe my favorite
that
performance
was
of that show.
I'd kind of like gone away to, I don't know, sort out something, you know, 20 minutes before the show is due to start. Because I've been like, okay, it's great, it's fine, everybody's ready. I can go sort this. And I came back 5 minutes beforehand, and there was this huge, insane queue outside the tent. And I thought, oh,
yeah,
it must be something else. You never get queues like this at a theatre tent, but there they were.
Some of those tour shows were, you know, because the Latitude one was like a rock concert, and the Manchester one was like a stand-up comedy show, because people were just going out and getting drinks, going out, getting drinks all the way through
Chatting.
the show, laughing, heckling. When I came on the stage as Nathaniel at the beginning, somebody just shouted like, "What?" You know, and it was
great.
It was those gigs were maybe the funnest gigs that we did. Maybe they weren't like, you know, I don't know how much theater people took away and narrative and stuff like that, but
because we had a lot of fun with obviously doing the shows at CPT in Southwark, but it was more of a theatre audience, which meant they laughed when they laughed, and they didn't like heckle, they didn't leave halfway through. So I think it was just like being met with these random events that we were just like, well, we have to roll with this, and that made us think on our feet. It forced us to be those characters in the moment and interact with the crowd in a way that we wouldn't have in the theatre. Yeah,
it really meant that the frat party was a very different scene in Manchester.
Oh god, yeah.
Yeah, it was chaos.
Yeah, it was. It was huge stage and running behind the back with the curtains and everything.
That was the thing. It was just so huge. The stage was so huge. We kind of hadn't thought about that next level of staging, you know.
It's the same with Bristol as well. Bristol was a weird one because we had the sort of diagonal square,
like a triangle.
In a pit, and then we had like a corner to the back of us rather than a flat wall. So we had to kind of walk off that way or walk off this way in this weird right angle fashion. But again, interesting place to perform.
So I've got a question here from Robin. Did you each have to audition for a particular role, or did you know straight off who was going to be each Beastie Boy? Well, I think because me and Simon originated the idea, we kind of like Simon was always going to play Mike D, I think, and there was a question whether I would play Ad Rock or MCA, and there was another guy who like looked very like MCA, but in the end, we decided on that I should play MCA and that my voice and my kind of I guess look matched his, and we auditioned for, and then Tope, we kind of met with a few DJs, you know, because we were like, we have to find a DJ who's also an amazing actor, and we met with a few DJs, and I think always I'd just known that like I wanted Tope because I knew how talented he was, and obviously I trained with him, and so that was quite quick, that decision. But we auditioned for Ad Rock. We met quite a few people, but Dan just came in and was just, you know, he
knew all the words by heart in the audition.
Knew all the words, yeah.
Which was not something we asked for.
No.
Yeah, like we experimented a bit with, because Ad Rock speaks in a low register, but he raps in a high tone, a high pitch.
Nuts. His voice is insane. Like it's.
So we experimented a bit with that in the rehearsal, in the audition, and he smashed it. And so, yeah, we were just like, we had some really great people, but at the end we just thought, yeah, because Dan had a theatre making background as well, and we hadn't, although we'd written the script, we knew that we wanted to workshop it. So it was just another bonus that we had someone who was great at being Ad Rock, great at rapping, and had a workshop theatre making background. So that was the choice.
And for me, it was the speech. You know, he did this speech that Ad Rock gave in real life at Adam Yauch Park when they opened that park, and it was just like he rapped with us so amazingly, and then he delivered this really, really poignant, dramatic speech, and it was just like, yeah, he's the one. You know, he's the guy. And he was so good. You know, everyone was like that. The guy playing Ad Rock, though, you know, was. Because it's hard. It's so hard to rap like him. He's got such an iconic voice, in hip hop. So it's really hard to pull that off. Okay, so trying to be fair to people. So okay, so we've got I've got from Natalie. She said, I sadly never saw the show, so I don't know whether it touched on the Beastie Boys influences, the rappers they liked. Was this an element of the show?
They do talk about their influences a bit in the lyrics of their songs. Got an A from OD, or Sticky to Themes is the one that comes to mind. But but also a bit of the show did have them interacting with Run-d.m.c.
Yeah,
that was a big part of their their sort of coming of age as hip hoppers, because they were a punk band, and then they kind of got into the Rick Rubin crowd and started being around Run-d.m.c. And I can imagine that influenced them a lot. Yeah, I think so. But that's all I can.
And I mean, they were so early on in hip hop, you know, so it kind of, you know, like the fact that, you know, we had scenes with Run-d.m.c. and with Rick and with Russell, and we couldn't kind of make a lot of references to those kind of mixtapes and old kind of battle raps that they were listening to just for time purposes. But, you know, we tried to get as many influences in there as possible, but actually, you know, they influenced a lot of people. That's, you know, the thing about the Beastie Boys is they're like early in hip hop, and I think people don't quite realize how pioneering they were and how, you know, early on in the day they were. I've got a good question here, and I think this is good for everyone. This is from, it's just E. So E to everyone. The concept of the show was so ambitious. So many people have to trust you, and other things need to fall into place by luck. How did you push past the fear enough to know you could commit to this? Amber.
That's a question for you, isn't it?
It's a question
I don't
for everyone,
know.
I think, because there was a lot of
all artists, I think. But I think, I mean, yeah, it was. I don't know. I think there was never a question. It was actually like one of the easiest decisions to make. I mean, I think we were worried about it legally, and the sort of rights to the music and so on, but we did get legal advice about that, but that legal advice didn't come in until quite late in the day, and I was very worried about that until quite late in the day. But I think in terms of the quality of the work, because I suppose that's a good thing about the process that you went through at CPT, and a lot of artists would go through something similar, where you do something that's like a scratch sharing or a kind of work in progress share, where you can put something up on its feet in front of an audience and get what the response is from that, and the sort of commitment level from the venue at that point is relatively low, and the audience just went so wild for that, and it was like one of the, you know, biggest hits we'd ever had, and everyone was raving about it. So it was immediately like, well, we've got to do a bigger run of this and like make it our Christmas show. And yeah, it was a no-brainer.
We can't thank you enough for trusting that, for trusting us, and for seeing that, because as like you say, as an artist, you're always wondering, is this good enough? Are people going to like this? But then to have someone like you, Amber, and the rest of CPT go, yeah, let's stick with this, or let's promote this. It was amazing. It was really amazing.
Well, I suppose as well at CPT, we were quite used to putting on stuff that was risky, and that was what we were about at CPT. So actually, compared to the bulk of our program, you were a pretty safe bet. It was actually quite nice to think, oh, there'll be loads of Beastie Boys fans who will just buy tickets. That's true. Easier. But it was, you know, you were fantastic, so no doubt.
The biggest fear for me, and I think Adam and we talked about this a lot, was Beastie Boys fans are serious about being like, as are we. Like, we're so serious, we made a show about them. But for the Beastie Boys fans who are going to come see the show, what are they going to think? Like, that was on my mind more than what do the Beastie Boys know or think, because, you know, for Beastie Boys was another world. Getting them to come see the show wasn't really a question. But people who are fans of the Beastie Boys, now they're going to come see it. They're going to be vocal. And so I was scared of that.
Yeah, I think we had a few people, I don't know if you remember, but at CPT, we had, you know, somebody come late because they kind of thought it was a concert. and then they weren't allowed in because it's theater, and they would literally be, you know. And then I got a bunch of abuse on Twitter about it, and it's kind of thing of like, you know, really, they were just super excited to see a show about the Beastie Boys, and we were just like, oh, you know, we really would want you to be in. It's just like you literally would be walking across the stage, you know, because it's theater, and it was kind of, it was negotiating that balance. And I remember NME were very, I mean, it's NME, but like NME were very kind of like skeptical. They're like, you know, like, what is this show about the Beastie Boys you're doing? And is it theater really? And the guy kind of came out, and you could tell he was like quite impressed. And he was like, oh, okay. Like, you know, so yeah, you know, it was, I think the thing is, it was like, it was one of those things where it was just so fun. And you know, I had a few people say to me like, what are you doing, like doing a show about the Beastie Boys, like that's like a big thing, and blah blah blah, and it's quite, you know, you're gonna face all this and it's like, I was like, just keep that coming, because I mean, I'm doing something right, you know. That means I'm doing, you know, if I'm causing that much stir, you know.
It also like, it really came from a place of humility, and like it felt, you know, it felt DIY, and I almost feel like it would have failed if it had kind of been like some massive like West End show with like, you know, all the fireworks and pyrotechnics and everything. It worked because it was lo-fi, and it felt like it was you know, a project that had genuinely come out of your passion. But then you were just so bloody good on top of that. It was like the perfect mix.
Yeah, I think it was I think the in a sense, like the Camden run of that show was kind of the perfect one, really, because, you know, like it didn't have a fancy set, and it just was like, you know, there's just stuck on the walls. And
not to discourage your design.
No offense, Jesse, but like, but you know what I mean? It was just like, you know, we didn't have like, it was like, it was raw, you know. And I think the vibe of it, you know, I think the show improved. You know, we honed the show for the Southwark run, but the vibe of the show was just so perfect for their kind of stuff. And I don't know who's seen the Beastie Boys story documentary, but it's just so them, you know. It's like, it's just so perfectly them, and silly, and full of their jokes that, like, you know, we could never put into ours because just no one would get them. But for them, it's just like they can get away with it. And I think it really like you say, it wouldn't suit like a big sort of razzmatazz type vibe.
I guess that's like that's why the hip hop musical is still a fairly uncommon occurrence, right? Because it's so hard to get that marriage of DIY and lo-fi and music theatre right.
And I can't think of another band that you would base a hip hop musical comedy on, because, you know, after the Beastie Boys, after the 80s, hip hop became pretty serious, like some might say deadly serious. And then, you know, we were comedians. We trained in physical comedy. Like, we were just like, so yeah, it's got to be this big, fun, lo-fi, physical, funny show. And that's what we tried to capture, because that's what the Beastie Boys were for us.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to try and get Sunny on. We've got another guest who's joining us. So let me see if I can get her to join.
I put the kettle on. Hold on, we're on.
Sunny, are you there? Hey.
Hi, how are you?
1 second. Let me just add you to the screen. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special guest. Sunny is one of the Beastie Boys' original photographers from, would you say like the License to Ill era, Sunny?
Yeah, pre-License to Ill.
Yeah, so this is a very famous image of Sunny's work I have here in the gatefold.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us. This is such an honor.
Thanks. It was fun to hear everybody well, in the last few minutes, because I couldn't hear in the beginning, but it was nice to hear everybody talking about the show. I got to see the show on a recording and it was awesome. It was really great. I wanted to bring it to LA, but we never did get to do that. But I know that there are a lot of Beastie Boy fans here.
Yeah, so we just connected, I think when that initial hype of when we put our press release out, I think we connected over Twitter or something like that, and we got in touch, and then we got to meet a couple of years ago in LA, which was super cool.
Yeah, that was really nice.
Really nice. And yeah, it's just been lovely, like, having, like you said, we talked earlier about how Mario saw the show and was just like, that was awesome. And you were probably the first person that actually knows the guys, that was like, yeah, like that's cool, and it was it was like a kind of huge honor, that.
Oh, you're so sweet. I actually met the boys because Dave Skilkin was my assistant. Horowitz and I went to the same high school, City as School in New York. And when I graduated, I took on interns, and Dave Skilkin was one of my interns. So along with him came his best friend, Horowitz. And with him came Mike D and Adam. And so they used to hang out at the studio all the time and things like that. So that was like the early 80s, I guess.
How did you start taking, were you a photographer before you got involved in the hip hop scene?
Oh my God. I don't even know if I really was involved so much in the hip hop scene. I was a photographer since I was a kid, like 12 or something like that. I used to be a paparazzi on Broadway from the ages of 12 to 17, taking my dad's camera and going around on Broadway because I live in New York. I lived in New York. I'm now in Venice, California. And I used to shoot paparazzi pictures of all the celebrities that went to Broadway shows. And that was my passion, was Broadway theater. So that's why I so relate to you guys, because theater is my first love. And, I just love that excitement and everything. But yeah, so I was shooting celebrities and shooting paparazzi stuff. And at the time that I met the Beasties, I had my studio in New York and I was shooting fashion. So I had been shooting fashion for a while. I'd had a bunch of studios, and the boys liked to come over and hang out. And now that I think of it, like decades later, I'm like, why did they hang out all the time? Oh, maybe it was all the models that were hanging out. Maybe they just liked all the pretty girls. I'm like, oh, that must be it. It just hits me now, because at the time I'm like, these guys, they're always coming over and they're like, hi, just happen to be in the neighborhood. Who do you have around, type of thing. And so they used to hang out and I would use them as stand-ins for my photo shoots. So I'd be setting up for a fashion shoot and I'd be like, hey, could you guys just stand here? Yeah, let me just check the light and everything. And they were my stand-ins. So that's why I have thousands of photographs of them in all these different, sets and stuff like that, because they were just my stand-ins. Yeah.
Oh, that's so great. So do you have like a favorite memory of working with the guys?
God, there were so many fun times. I mean, there were really, it's a good thing I was taking pictures because I couldn't remember all of them now, probably. But from hanging out, I made them help me. Well, not help me, but I made them be extras in this Coca-Cola commercial because I needed the money and we all just needed the money. So I made them join me and we all were extras on this Coke commercial where we had to sit in the stands at some stadium, like, I don't know if it was Shea Stadium or something like that. And all we had to do is wait until our cue and then do the wave. So we all stood up and did the whole wave, and that was it. And we got $100. So we were pretty happy about that. That was a fun thing. I don't even know what happened to the commercial. And then just the whole license, I think the whole time that License to Ill just came out and we were, hanging out and hearing the sound of the album being played in the streets and being played on cars going by at 11, you know, and you just hear that thumping bass and stuff like that going down the street, and you're like, whoa, that's the album, that's my song, you know. They were all like freaked out, but it was happening all over the city in New York and in LA, and you would just see cars go by and the cars would be shaking from the vibration of that bass. And that was exciting, you know. That was something where not every artist got to hear that so much. It went to #1 so quickly, and it was really, you know, a unique type of thing, I think, you know. But yeah, there were so many, you know, fun things.
Can see them back there.
That's so cool.
Oh yes, my big old thing. Yeah. So
yeah, that's super cool. And you all must have been kids, you know, like you must have been so young. And
yeah,
I guess that
like
New York scene
20s.
was so, you know, creative, and it just must have been so cool to be so much of a part of it, you know.
Yeah, I don't think we really thought about it.
Yeah,
you know, we're just living, so it just didn't really, it didn't feel cool or uncool. It just felt, you know, another day.
Yeah.
Hanging out in this club or that club or whatever, you know. So yeah.
What do you and what do you think, like, their, you know, the kind of lasting impact and legacy of the Beasties is on music? You know, is it fun? Is it, you know, sort of a pioneering sense, or is it, you know?
I don't have any input on that. You know, you guys know so much more about their influence and stuff like that. For me, they were just my friends hanging out, and you know, I really missed a lot of that time between the end of License to Ill and Paul's Boutique, because we were all in here in LA, but they were up in, where's that, Silver Lake, Eagle Rock, or everything, where their studio was. But I was shooting a lot of celebrity portraiture, and I didn't really see them that much. But that's the beautiful thing of being old friends, is like I would get a phone call from Adam and be like, hey, Sunny, do you have a picture of that? And it just, every time I see them, it doesn't feel like 2 years have gone by or 5 years, you know. It just seems like another day. I saw Mike just online at the local restaurant and goes, hey, I was thinking about you. I need to get some pictures for this book. We're doing the Beastie book. And I'm like, finally, you're going to, you know, it's like stall for 5 years. And then all of a sudden the deadline is next week and we need pictures, you know, like, what do you have? I'm like, I don't know. Come to my house. Let's look at some stuff. And, you know, and it doesn't feel like, oh, I haven't seen you in 4 years or whatever. It just seems like, oh, hey, there you are. Like every time I see him playing baseball in New York or something like that, or softball, it doesn't, that's the beauty. That's the great part of being old friends, right? You just see him. It's just like, hey, what you doing? You know, and now it's been 30 years. I don't know. It's been a long ass time that I've known him, and so much has gone by, you know, and it just doesn't, feels like yesterday that we were just hanging out in the village and going to bars and hanging out, and hey, can I use your studio to do a video? We're going to do a video of Fight for Your Right to Party, and do you want to be in it? And I'm like, hell no, I don't want a pie in my face, you know.
Yeah. But wasn't that your studio, the Fight for Your Right one? Or
that was my studio.
That's crazy. And
that's my bathroom that all that whipped cream was on the floor of, and that never came out. So, you know.
There's a lot of
video,
extras, a lot of people in that video.
Yeah, everybody we know, Aura and Dominique and the guys from Slayer, and you know, just so many friends were in that video. So that was a fun thing, and it's nice that people still see it, you know. It's amazing. Yeah. I can't believe that you guys are all still fans of theirs. It's like, who would have known that in the 80s that anybody would give a shit, you know, this now.
I think it's
awesome.
like, I think that's the, it's that kind of attitude though that like makes things really, really stick, because it's true and it's human, and I think, what's so, what was so wonderful about their documentary, the Beastie Boys story, and also the book is, they're such wonderful storytellers, but everything is just done their way and so original and so different. And I think, like you said, like at the time, you guys were just having fun.
Mhm.
Oh, is that Yauk hanging?
Yeah, that's Yauk. We were past the
Yeah.
Palladium, and he jumped out of the car and just, stuff like that, that we jumped out of a limo and just
Crazy.
saw their name on the marquee and be like, oh my God. And we had to jump out and just sort of hang on it. That was just totally spontaneous, it wasn't like a set up photo shoot. And I think that that's what most of my photos of them are just things that happened. I was just there, a fly on the wall.
Well, you had your paparazzi experience, and then so I guess with that kind of background, you've always got a camera ready, right?
Yeah, and on that note, I do want to acknowledge that I really miss Ricky Powell. And, Ricky was there, and Ricky has some really iconic pictures of everything. He was there, and he wasn't even a professional, quote, photographer at the time, but he always had his camera and he was always shooting with them. He was there when I wasn't there. Sometimes we were there together, like on tour for Licensed Ill, the first tour. So yeah, those were good times, I got to be Ricky's date at the Annenberg when they had a hip hop show a couple of years ago. And so
no
I
way.
was Ricky's date. And that was a fun time that we got to see everybody, all the old crew. Glenn Friedman was there and Dante and just so many people. So yeah.
That's super cool.
Ricky, rest in peace, dude.
Yeah, rest in peace, Ricky. I mean, he, such an iconic photographer and such beautiful work and just such a cool character,
Yeah.
It's so cool. Like if you check out, his, I think Lazy Hustler, is that his
something. I haven't never even seen it. I don't even has anyone here seen the movie? Because Dave was the trim coordinator. Yeah.
The Beastie Boys film, the documentary.
No, has anybody seen? There's a documentary on Rick.
There's a Rick documentary. No, I haven't seen that.
Yeah. Actually, there's also a documentary on Rick Rubin, and I have photos in that too, but I haven't seen it. So I haven't seen the Ricky Powell documentary. I haven't seen that. I have seen the Apple movie, the Spike Jones film. I have a lot of photos.
One, yeah.
I have a lot of photos in the movie and on the stage show and then the book.
Did you see the stage show live? Did you get to?
Yeah, I got to see it live. That was fun. It was terrible. I went backstage and I couldn't even get backstage because I didn't have my name on any kind of list, and there were so many celebrities that the guards were totally dissing me. They were like, I'm sorry, you can't go back. I'm like, Mike, but couldn't even see him. I'm like, fuck this shit. I'm not gonna stand here. The next day or the day after, I saw Mike right here in Venice because he lives in Venice. I was like, oh my God, he was in line. He's like, oh, Sunny, how you doing? I'm like, oh my God, 2 days ago I was there and I was trying to get your attention. He goes, oh, I didn't even see you. I'm like, I know. So I was like, whatever, you were with your big movie star friends, and that was that. It was like funny, but then it's funny. It's funny how they became such big stars. It's amazing to me that they're still big stars, but to me they're just still the guys.
I guess they've got that balance though, it's like they don't come across as big stars, they come across as the guys, and I think that comes across in their work and in their in the way that they present themselves. And obviously, you know, yeah, like they're huge, you know, they're almost like, you know, hip hop royalty or whatever. And, you know, I guess their relationship with Spike Jonze, you know, kind of pushes them into the movie world a little bit. And you know, I'm sure everybody would want to hang out with the Beastie Boys, you know, like in that kind of, in those kind of Hollywood circles, you know. But I think,
it's all fun and games till they come to your mother's house, and then the board of directors of the apartment building send your mother a letter saying, "What's all the noise in your apartment?" You know. Yeah, or if they come and, you know, rearrange the furniture in the hotel room and bring everything down like, not everybody is so excited to have the Beastie Boys over. They're much nicer now, you know, but back then it was not actually a thrill for everybody.
We rehearsed some of the show in my apartment in London and had a similar complaint.
Yeah, exactly.
I've got the videos, you know. I actually have all the videos. I've got all the videos of the rehearsals.
We were told many times to be quiet and
method acting.
Rehearsal spaces. Yeah, exactly. You know, get the bass pumping and as loud as we can.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. Well, you know, thank you so much, Sunny, for joining us. It's lovely to see you, and I hope to see you soon in person, hopefully, once all this.
Are you planning to do the show again, or was that the end of it in your? What do you think?
The thing is, with our kind of agreement with their manager and with Pete, Pete, their manager, is that while they are doing Beastie projects, we're kind of backing off, you know. And I think the conversation is still open. It's not closed, but while, you know, the books come out, the films just come out, you know, we're giving them space and we're giving them the respect while they can, you know, do their own thing. And you know, maybe in a couple of years, you know, we'll be able to do it again. But it's, you know, it's in a very respectful place, but we just don't have any plans to do it right now.
We've still got a lot of all of the costumes and
we've got all the sets. Yeah, we've got all the got all the thing.
Well, you know, they're Beastie fans. You're just going to have to give them senior discounts to come see them.
Yeah. All right, Sunny. Thank you so much for joining
all right,
us.
enjoy.
And everybody, thank you so much, all of you out there in the public. Thank you for your questions. It's really cool to have this kind of turnout for our little show. And yeah, I'm gonna repost this online with the message from Dan, so do check that out. But all I can say is thank you so much. Good night. Lots of love. This was really fun. And take care. Bye, everyone. Bye.